The Arab Springs. Arab Springs relates to the term turmoil, meaning a state of great commotion, confusion, or disturbance. The Arab Springs was a chain of anti-government riots, revolts, and armed rebellions that spread across the Middle East. The protests have shared some techniques of civil resistance and sustained campaigns involving strikes, demonstrations, marches, and rallies, as well as the effective use of social media to organize, communicate, and raise awareness in the face of state attempts at repression and internet censorship.
Reason for protests. The aim of the protests were to demand political freedoms and social justices. It was also a statement of deeply felt displeasure at the Arab dictatorships, unemployment, rising prices, corruption, and frustration at the cruelty of the security. 1.5 years after the start of the Arab Spring, Islamists have taken power in some countries. Gulf rulers are suppressing protesters with cash, and Syria is ascending into civil wars. No longer does the U.S. have the prestige and resources to dominate Middle East affairs to the degree it has. The U.S. doesn't have the financial resources needed to shape prospects in the Arab Spring countries. The place where the Arab Spring is happening is in the Middle East or around the Arabian Peninsula, or Arab, hence the Arab Springs. The rebellions and protests were spread across the Middle East and North Africa and had effects on many countries. The places where the Arab Spring protests have been successful are in many countries such as Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, and Yemen, where governments have had to step down. Also, many countries in the region have forced the government to make reforms or changes caused by civil uprisings in Syria, Bahrain, and protests in Algeria, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Morocco, Sudan, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Djibouti, Western Sahara, and Palestinian territories. The reason it is happening in these countries is because of many things such as unemployment, extreme poverty, political corruption, dictatorships, absolute monarchs, and human rights violations. In order to solve the problems or stop protests, governments are making reforms and trying to fill the problems they are arguing. But in some countries such as Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, and Yemen, the protests and demonstrations have been too persistent and powerful. The countries have had to flee or hand over the power.
Mohammed Bouazizi. He was born March 29, 1984. He died on January 4, 2010. He lit himself on fire in protest to the government because they stole his fruit cart without proper licensing. Another man, Mohsen Batouraev, decided to follow in the same steps because he felt the governments were unfair and lit himself on fire.
And for more information, you can check out the Arab Spring timeline, or you can also find more information on these websites below.